One's going a little farther down. My next one will be a little farther down. So again, you play around with the direction of the cast shadow depending on where your light source is. Okay? So my next one, we have a circle that then gets gets turned into a sphere. Okay? So a sphere. That's what this little guy is. So it's basically a ball, but we go fancy and call it a sphere. So this is a three-dimensional circle. Let's see if it's gonna stay, might roll. There we go. All right, so same as always. Light source coming down towards like this. So my highlight is gonna be up here. My darkest area is gonna be down here. Okay, so opposite side, I'm gonna start with my darks using my heavy pressure. And again, a sphere is rounded, so we have to work with that nice rounded shape. So watch as I'm shading in, notice how I'm keeping my pencil strokes and I'm kind of doing more of a curved effect when I'm adding in my shadow. And then as I work my way towards that highlighted area, again, I keep it nice and round, and then I slowly, gradually darken up lighten up my pressure as I work my way towards that highlight. And then once I kind of get over there, I feel again that I need a little bit more shadow down here, so I'll come back and I'll add a little bit more dark, always keeping my pencil in that nice rounded kind of effect, so that my shadow always follows the same like contour and shape of the image that I'm trying to create. Okay. And that is my sphere. Okay. Now again, cast shadow touches the very bottom. Now when it comes to spheres, they're just sitting right on the bottom of the object. Okay. Whereas a lot of these have like a very wide base. Again, spheres just have like a little one because it's just barely touching. So my cast shadow is going to start here and then kind of work its way out like this. Okay. The next one is kind of a little trickier. Now again, it's kind of just like a cylinder, so it is going to be a very similar shading effect that we did to this one. But if you notice, our shape that we're trying to do is an oval. Now ovals have an interesting kind of an optical illusion effect when you are working with their shading. Okay, so it's actually called an ellipse. So not an eclipse that has to deal with space and stuff. This is called an ellipse, and it's talking about the optical illusion of giving the appearance that things are an oval, but in reality it's actually a circle shape. So it happens with cylinders and also with the cone. So if I turn the cone over and we look at the top and the bottom of a cylinder, notice how both of those are a circle. Okay, but if you start turning them so they're kind of at more of an angle, notice how that circle starts to take on more of an oval kind of a look. That optical illusion is called an ellipse. So again, the actual shape of it is a circle, but when you put it at an angle, it turns it into the oval shape. Again, that is called an ellipse. Okay? So the ellipse happened right here, and it actually happened right here as well. It is on the cone, but we can't see it because the cone has been tilted this way in the image that we shaded up here instead of this way. Okay, so we could see the ellipse. Okay. So there's actually an ellipse on the top and then kind of one on the bottom, but we can only see the top one. So we're going to shade this one in. Again, my light source comes down like that. So my highlighted area is going to be here. Over here is going to be my darkest, and we're just going to shade them in very similar to what we did with the cylinder up above. Where farthest away from my light source, I start with my dark, as I work my way here. And since this one is farther away from the light source and the light source is kind of more above rather than right beside, I'm actually going to put a little bit more of the shadow kind of on the bottom down here. So it's going to have a little bit more shadow on the bottom, and my highlight is going to be kind of focused here because that's where my light source is hitting, is this general area. Okay. I feel like I went a little too dark there, so again, coming back with my eraser, fixing it up. And then same thing with my top area. It's going to be dark over here. And then as it works its way across towards where that light source is, it's going to lighten up just a little. Okay. And then my cast shadow, again, touches the bottom of my shape and works away from the light source, kind of like that. Now the last one I kind of just threw in there for fun, so not really to do a specific shape, but just kind of practicing how to change anything kind of from a very flat two-dimensional shape to give the illusion of a 3D form. So this is just a jewel thing. It doesn't actually have like a changed name or anything, but I just want us to practice the idea of shading things to give the illusion of three-dimensional. So again, light source coming down, pretty similar to our ellipse up here. We're gonna pretend that's not there and that the light source is directly hitting this one. So light source is gonna hit the top part of this little jewel first. So very, very, very light pressure. I'm just gonna barely shade that one in just to give it a little hint of color. Okay. Again, light source coming down, hits here first, hits here second. So I'm going to use just a little bit extra pressure on this one. So it's still pretty light, but it has to be darker than we did here. Again, light source comes down, 1, 2, hits the front of this thing third. So again, I'm going to add in some shadow, and it has to be darker than the one I just did, which is this side. Again, make sure that you get all the way up to the edges, color in the full thing, and make sure there is, like, the shade that you're getting in there is even, so you don't have any areas that are darker or lighter, because again, we're shading something that has a lot of flat surfaces like the cube and the rectangle, so you pretty much just color all of the areas in the same amount so that they're nice and flat and even across the whole surface. Okay. Alright, so sunlight comes down, 1, 2, 3. I'd say it hits here the fourth. So this will be darker than the face of the little jewel. And then obviously we only have one spot left, so that'll be my darkest area. So I'll color that in with some heavy pressure and make it nice and dark. Okay. Now by changing it that, you can tell it already gives like a nice image that it kind of looks like this middle is kind of popping up, and then we have a nice highlight coming down up at the top. Okay. And then if I want to up it just a little bit more, I can put in that cast shadow. Okay, I'm going to clean that edge up just a tish. Okay, all right. So that is kind of how you use your drawing skills in order to shade shapes to give the illusion of form. So again, very, very important that you know the difference. So, I'm just going to kind of line these up. So again, so these are shapes. This is the illusion of form, and these are actual forms. Very important that you know the difference. So again, shapes, illusion of form, forms. Okay?